Now it's time for our viewer outrage segment. The U.S. economy shedding fewer jobs in August. Meanwhile, President Obama's economic team's working on new plans to shore up the economy. Tax cuts for businesses, among other ideas. New York Times' Paul Krugman says we need another round of spending stimulus. Here's what Harvard professor Neil Ferguson says.
What I think I'm seeing is evidence that the fiscal stimulus hasn't really delivered what was promised. And I'm not sure a second round is going to really make a huge, big difference.
All right, do we need more stimulus right now? Well, here's what you're saying. Marie in Cookeville, Tennessee says no. We need to see some spending cuts. Steve says, I would provide cash rebates to consumers for home improvements, which would put our skilled craftsmen in the construction industry back to work. Well, joining us now, Julie Roginski from Comprehensive Communications Group and David Rehr, business management and politics professor at George Washington University. Okay, Julie, you first. What is Mr. Obama going to put out, and what kind of stimulus do you want?
Well, you got me as to what he's going to put out. Listen, I thought the first stimulus was too small with the problems we were facing. I think this stimulus has had an impact. Unemployment would have been probably 2 points higher than it is today without it. But look, the stimulus is going to run out very shortly, and the economy is still in deep trouble. We need to absolutely have a second stimulus package. What I would love to see is direct aid to states so they can improve infrastructure, put people straight back to work, and ensure that we invest in education, because that's the future of this country. That's exactly what we need right now to put people to work, shovel-ready projects today. We cannot end the stimulus now while the economy and unemployment are still at 9.5%.
David, that's going to be a tough political load to haul, right? I mean, people worry that the first stimulus was either too light or too heavy and still didn't do the job.
Yeah, well, we did learn from the first stimulus that if we give cocaine to monkeys, it adversely affects them. I think we spent $71,000 of taxpayers' money on that.
Well, at least we now know that.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
That's exactly
all right.
What we really have is not a problem of stimulus, it's a problem of uncertainty. Business, entrepreneurs, small business people are nervous about where this administration is taking the country. Obamacare, you name it, the elimination of the Bush tax cuts. So everyone is holding on their money. Larry previously talked about record profits and earnings by corporations. Nobody wants to invest if they have an administration who, frankly, is increasingly vitriolically anti-business.
I don't think this administration is anti-business at all. As a small business person, I'm not scared of what's going on. I'm happy about what's going on. I'm happy that 95% of the American people will get a tax break under this president. But I will say to you, at this stage in our economic recovery, which is still far, far from where it needs to be, we cannot pull the plug right now. We cannot pull the plug on investing in our states and investing in our infrastructure, because if we do, we're going to see a repeat of 1937. We're going to see a repeat of the Great Depression coming back again. We certainly cannot afford to do that at a time when unemployment is still so high.
So the best thing the president could do would be to tell his agencies no new regulations, tell the Congress to reenact the Bush tax cuts on marginal rates so small business people know that they're not going to be taxed dramatically after January 1st of next year, and talk about how he's embracing business and capitalism and markets and how it creates the greatest lifestyle and the greatest livelihood for anyone in the world.
David, with all due respect, we've tried it your way before. We had the Bush tax cuts. We saw virtually no job growth under the Bush administration, and we see the debacle that we inherited today because of these tax cuts. You're worried about the deficit. You're worried about the budget deficit, which a lot of Republicans and a lot of naysayers talk about. How did that deficit come about? You can't have it both ways. The bottom line is we need to continue investing in our nation's infrastructure. Our states are crying out for help. We need direct investment in our states to ensure that when this stimulus ends, as it will in the next few months, that this economy does not spiral even more out of control. We don't want to look at 12 or 13% unemployment rates.
Got it. So, Julie, you may remember or not remember that the 2001 Bush tax cuts were designed to end the recession, which they did. They created unsustained economic growth. When President Obama initiated the stimulus package, unemployment was at 7.7%. Now it's at 9.7%.
I'm sorry, are you actually saying this recession began under President Obama? I don't want to revisit revisionist history, but as somebody who worked in the Senate during the 2001 tax cuts, I remember that we were in a recession then, and I remember that 8 years later we were still in a recession again, and even a worse one than Bush inherited. So let's be clear here, Barack Obama is not responsible for this recession. He's responsible for getting us out of it, and the problem is that to get us out of it, we need more direct investment. We cannot pull the plug in investment at a time when our economy has still not recovered.
Well, Julie, with all due respect as an economist, more stimulus is going to lead to more economic problems.
Well,
we've got to make certainty clear for business that if they invest, they will get a return and they will make money. They'll hire people. The economy will grow again.
Well, you and I cannot agree on that more, but there's a lot of economists out there who simply disagree with you and agree with me that we need more government spending and more stimulus.
Julie,
yes, Larry.
did I hear you say you want to extend unemployment again? What, you want to run? It's 2 years. You want to run it to 3 or 4 years?
Larry,
most economists think that'll jack up the unemployment rate even more.
To extend unemployment benefits? Well,
yes,
to the extent that
correct.
people are going to stop looking for work if they no longer get unemployment, and then we're going to have real unemployment of 15 or 17 or 20%.
Right.
But look, I mean, the bottom line is, what are you going to do, Larry? You want people to invest in a consumer society. You want people to spend in the private sector.
I want to slash personal tax rates across the board.
Not. Well,
I want to slash personal tax rates, David, across the board.
Absolutely, Larry. You are right on.
Take the top rate down. Take the middle rate down. That's something no one is talking about.
Larry,
capital gains tax,
let me ask David.
tax on dividends.
Let's put that on the table.
You're asking me to put this on the table?
No, I'm asking David to comment on that.
Right. I think cutting tax rates, eliminating capital gains, we have to go overboard to signal business that we want them to invest and reignite this economy. If we do that, history has shown with Kennedy, with Reagan, with Bush, that occurs.
Coolidge. Don't forget Coolidge.
I'm sorry, Coolidge too.
You're on a Coolidge kick today.
But
then what, David? We worry about the deficit later?
Well, no. The only way we get out of this economy is to grow the economy. Ooh, right? That's the classic Grinch in Washington is, well, we need to really be focused on the deficit. Well, you can raise taxes 100% on everybody in America, confiscate all their wealth, still going to have a huge deficit because there's no growth.
Hallelujah, we agree actually on that one.
Every percentage point increase in GDP lowers the deficit 10 years later by nearly $3 trillion. It's just an interesting factoid. If you raise the GDP growth from the baseline, you actually you reduce the demand for entitlements and safety nets, and you increase revenues. I mean, that's just the way it works. Anyway, I don't know if we settled anything. When we come back here.